Hello and welcome, everybody. I am very excited to talk again with Jessica Vaysberg. She's with the DeRoche Group here in Minneapolis. She is a real estate agent. And we were just having a conversation about investment property. We thought would be fun to share some important topics. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Erin.
Thank you for taking time to talk with me about this.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to chat about this.
Yeah, so what we want to talk about specifically is 5 things to consider when you are thinking about buying investment property. But before we jump into that, everybody's heard this term house hacking. So tell us what that is.
Yeah, so house hacking is when you buy a house as your primary residence and live there for a year, and then you move out and you rent it out, and you can kind of keep that same interest rate as you had as a primary residence. So it's a good way to save money each month.
Yeah, well, and on the financing side too, what's really cool about it is you can buy a primary residence with a much smaller down payment than you can if you're buying it as an investment property, and you get a better rate. So it's a really cool way to acquire multiple properties if you're willing to move every so often. But of course, that's not everybody, right? Like you have people who are interested in buying investment property who don't have any desire to have to move every year or 2 years.
Yeah, I do. And especially people with families and they're in certain school districts and stuff like that. They're just not looking to move, but they still
Right.
want to get in on the investment game.
Yep, and you can do that. And one of the other cool things that people listening might not know is that if you have some equity in your house where you live now and you want to leverage that equity to be able to make a down payment on an investment property, you can do that through like a second mortgage, home equity line of credit. But regardless of whether we're talking about somebody buying a property to move into and then rent it out in the future, or whether we're talking about somebody buying an investment property, these 5 things that we're going to talk about are important regardless of the property, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So let's hop into that. Like, what's the first most important thing to consider when you're deciding to buy an investment property?
The number one thing is going to be the cash flow and the numbers. If the numbers don't make sense, then the investment property doesn't make sense. You're just going to want to make sure you're really staying in the black and not going into the red at all with this.
Yes. And, I appreciate that you say that's the most important thing because I see that people will get really excited about buying investment property and they will completely forget to run the numbers. And when they look at the numbers, maybe they are ending up with their rent not totally covering what their expenses are going to be. And then it's kind of like buying another car payment, right? We want this to contribute to somebody's bottom line, not detract from the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. So just not going into a house and getting too excited about the house because you love it. You have to really think that it's as an investment, not for yourself.
Yes, it's working for you. How about number 2?
Number two would be licensing rules and requirements in the city that you're purchasing in. Got to make sure you keep these in mind.
Yeah, there are some cities that require rental inspections and that you carry a license, that they come out and check your property periodically. Um, there could be rent control in an area where you are thinking about buying. You need to be aware of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. How What's the third thing?
Upkeep and repairs. There's always going to be unexpected repairs needed when you own an investment property.
Yeah, and this takes a little forward thinking, right? You have to look at the age of your mechanicals and think about how long it's going to be before they have to be replaced and kind of build that in as a residual. You have to look at, you know, who's going to mow the lawn? Who's going to remove the snow? Is that your tenant's responsibility? Is that going to be something you're doing or you're hiring a service for? So, and keeping your property in good shape is important because it increases the long-term value of your property, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like you can do it yourself or you can hire it out. But if you hire it out, you're going to want to factor that into the monthly cash flow.
Which is another important piece, right? It's if you're going to hire it out, there's some things you need to consider. And if you're going to do it yourself, there's different things you need to consider.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's the fourth thing?
Fourth thing is tenants, filling those leases. So you're going to want a standard process to ensure that you're really treating everybody equally and there's no discrimination with picking your tenants. Otherwise, you could hire a property management company and they'll take care of that for you, but you'll have to factor that into your cash flow analysis.
Yep, absolutely. And I find that it's a common mistake with people who aren't using a management company that they don't realize that they can't just choose the tenant they like the best based on the applications, that they have to treat everybody with the same process. They have to be fair. They have to make sure they have a transparent process for tenants.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of rules around that, and you want to make sure you're following them.
Yes, to be a successful landlord.
Exactly.
I thank you so much. This is so valuable for people who are thinking they want to buy investment property. But if they want to know more about this, because we could go 6 layers deep on this all day. They
Yeah.
want to know more about this and talk to you about investment property. How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, give me a call or send me a text at 763-516-2004.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. Nice chatting.
Yes.